Hello, my name's George Dewar from Charles Lancaster Gunmakers, and we are the UK importers for the Vouzelaud Live Quarry range of steel shot ammunition. Now that's the special steel shot ammunition that is capable of going through any choke and without the need for your gun to be steel proofed. So in this video today, we're going to have a quick look at the technology involved in the ammunition. We're going to cut a cartridge open and see what's inside. Then we're going to talk about the product range, see what kind of loads are on offer and so on, and then we're going to finish off with a pattern plate test. So if you've got an old English side-by-side, a modern European over and under, or anything in between, you're going to want to watch this video because this could be the solution for you. So I'm here today with Nick Penn at Penn Sport Shooting School here in the heart of West Berkshire near Newbury. In fact, we're just off junction 13 of the M4, less than a 2-minute drive off the motorway. A very convenient location for you to come and pick up your cartridges because Penn Sport is one of our principal dealers of the Vouzelaud ammunition here in the UK, specifically in the south of England. Now, Nick is Nick Jr. Nick Sr. founded Penn Sport Shooting School in the late 80s, predominantly a shooting school for teaching people to shoot game. They also have a sporting agency, so they spend a lot of time in the field. Nick, what is your main concern around the transition to steel shot, the transition to non-toxic shot, but specifically with steel shot?
Well, I think the two things I believe that are fundamentally important are, firstly, we need to protect our barrels, and secondly, we need a cartridge that can kill game effectively and cleanly.
Great. Well, the Live Quarry range of cartridges does exactly that. So I'm going to tell you how that works. We're going to cut open a cartridge. We're going to have a look at what's inside, have a look at the wad. I'll tell you how it all works, tell you what the wad's made up of. And then once we've done that, we'll talk about the cartridges that are on offer, what you're going to be stocking here, and then we'll go and do some testing. And it is worth mentioning at this point that we've already done a field test with this ammunition. We took some of the 2 3/4 inch cartridge up to Warter Priory in Yorkshire, so one of the biggest shoots in the country. They've already gone fully non-toxic this season, getting rid of single-use plastics in terms of the wad and moving to non-toxic shot. I'm going to put a link to that video in the description below, so be sure to check that out. But in the meantime, we're going to dive into these cartridges and see what's inside. So, got my trusty knife. So what we're looking at here is the 2 3/4 inch cartridge, which is a 28 gram number 4. Now that's a French 4, so that's actually a British number 3. We'll talk a bit more about the loads later on, but first of all I want to tell you about the technology inside. So let's get stuck in and cut one open. So Nick, the first thing we're going to look at is actually the shot itself. It's a regular steel shot, but with a slight twist. It's got a very thin coating of tin around it.
Okay.
It's around about 2 microns thick, and it's not for ballistics. The tin is actually to prevent corrosion. So if someone were to store their ammunition in a slightly warm, humid environment, as occasionally can happen by mistake, it stops the pellets clumping together inside the cartridge.
Okay.
And stops them corroding in there. And then also, once you've fired your cartridge, if any pellets end up in the game and you end up freezing the game, it's going to prevent any chance of corrosion and spoiling or tainting the meat. Sure. Okay, so we can chuck these pellets in this box here. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the wad. And just before we look at that, I'm going to just dispose of the powder here safely. And then we'll talk about the powder a little bit later on. So, the main thing when it comes to shooting steel shot is that we know it can't go through tight choke.
Right.
And the reason steel shot can't go through tight choke is because steel is that much harder than lead. Now lead kind of compacts down, squishes down, it's malleable, kind of almost goes into the shape of a rugby ball when it goes through a nice tight choke.
Mm-hmm.
Steel can't do that.
Okay.
That's really only half the story. The full story is that what happens is that the pellets, when they're inside a cup wad, they compact at the back of that cup wad as it's travelling up the barrel. The simplest way to think of it is, imagine an aeroplane sitting on the runway, ready to go. You put a load of marbles up by the cockpit, the pilot puts on the throttle, marbles end up at the back of the plane.
Right.
That's what's happening inside that barrel. The pellets are coming to the back of the wad.
Sure.
As they get to the choke, that's when they've got nowhere to go. And because they're not malleable in steel shot, that's when you can have barrel bulges and you can create all sorts of issues.
Yep.
Okay? And if that wad's not strong enough as they're traveling up the barrel, wads have been known in the past to fail, and then your steel comes in contact with your barrel, and that scores the barrels.
Sure.
So what we want, if we go back to the aeroplane analogy, is we want those marbles all neatly spread out along the aisle.
Okay.
So we want to stop the pellets compacting at the back of the cup wad, and that then gives you a little bit of movement in there.
Yep.
So that when the wad and the pellets hit the choke, they've got space to move around to go through the choke and out the other side. And the technology behind that is this wad, and it's called an ACP wad. Okay? Now, the ACP wad works in a very, very specific way. There is a controlled bleed of the pressure inside here once that explosion goes off, and that pressure essentially pinches that wad tight and stops those pellets coming to the back of the cup wad. All right?
Okay.
So that keeps everything in its place.
Yep.
As the wad and the pellets are going up the barrel,
Mm-hmm.
you then have protection in the sense that the pellets can't come into contact with the barrel because that pressure is squeezing that wad nice and tight. All right? And if you feel that wad, you'll feel that that's quite thick. All right? So there's no way those pellets are going to go through and come into contact with those barrels.
No.
Once you get to the choke, you've got that movement we talked about.
Sure.
All goes through the choke nice and easy and out the other side.
And the little lines?
So the grooves and the slits here are all part of that very carefully designed wad.
Okay, sure.
That basically allows the controlled bleed of that pressure
bleed.
and then creates the ability for that pressure to squeeze that wad tight. Okay. Now, important to say that this is not new technology. All right. It's new to Britain, but actually this has been out for well over a decade with millions of rounds shot in France. But there hasn't been a need for it in the UK.
Sure.
Now, obviously, that we're doing this transition to non-toxic, there is now a need for it. Okay, so the wad itself is made of a material called green wad, and green wad is fully biodegradable. It biodegrades with bacteria, not with water, not with light, and it goes down completely into nothing.
Sure.
Okay, now you've now got protection for your barrels.
Yep.
You've got the ability to go through tight choke.
Yep.
We're going to do a pattern test in a bit through some tight chokes.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what that does in terms of pattern, and we'll talk about that in a bit. All right. The other key thing to note about these cartridges is that they are standard pressure steel. Now, standard pressure steel means that your gun doesn't have to be steel proofed. As long as it is proofed within CIP regulations, then you're fine. So that's the technology behind the cartridge. Now let's have a look at the range of products on offer.
Okay.
Okay, Nick, so let's have a look at the cartridges we've got here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the product range available, the different loads we've got, and so on. The cartridge that we cut open just now is a 28 gram number 4. Now that's a French number 4, so that's a British 3.
British 3.
So essentially you've kind of got the impact energy of about a number 5 in lead shot.
Right.
28 gram 3 in steel gives you the same pellet count roughly as a 34 gram 4 in lead.
Okay.
Going out at 1350 feet per second, so it's a pokey old cartridge.
Quite quick.
This is like your high bird cartridge.
Okay.
Okay, and bear in mind you can put it through tight choke as we've talked about, so it's giving you that ability to kill, which you talked about being one of your concerns earlier on. We also do a 2.5 inch cartridge. That's a 24 gram French number 5, so it's a 24 gram 4. The pellet count is kind of equivalent to your 1 ounce number 5 in lead.
Yeah.
So that's your regular pheasant cartridge, nothing too high. good for your older guns. You've got your dad's 1895 Holland & Holland with some tight chokes in it with a 2.5-inch chamber. That's going to be the cartridge for you. It's called Live Quarry Vintage. Okay, so those are the 12-bore cartridges in terms of game shooting. We also have a 20-bore cartridge, and then we have a 12-bore clay cartridge, which you've been testing here for us, and we've decided we're going to tweak it a little bit, and we're going to ask the manufacturer to change the shot size from what it is at the moment. We'll talk more about that when those cartridges come out, and we'll do some testing on them. You can also keep an eye on our website, which is www.livequarrysteel.com, and on that website we give details of the products available, and most importantly we have a user guidance page, because there are some limitations concerning what type of gun you can put this through, mostly to do with the condition of your gun, but that's fair to say for all guns and all cartridges. You need to know what condition your gun is before you shoot anything too powerful or anything different to what you're usually shooting. All right.
And I mean, is there anything smaller as well for youngsters?
So we if you're talking about caliber, we will have some exciting news coming out hopefully in early 2023.
Okay,
all right. We do have a 16-bore as well, and I forgot to mention.
Okay.
But if you're talking 28-bore and so on, keep an eye on the website and watch this space.
No problem.
Now, obviously, as you mentioned earlier, your concerns about barrel protection and ability to cleanly kill your game, and that includes choke setup. Hopefully I've been able to answer those questions and solve that problem with this cartridge. And you're going to be stocking all of our range of cartridges when we get them in for our launch next year in 2023, 2024. We've got some of the 2.5-inch cartridge coming out this year, but we'll talk more about that on our website. So again, keep an eye on the website for information. If people want to come and buy this ammunition from you, Junction 13, M4, less than 2 minutes off the junction. You can come in here and maybe have a lesson or two as well.
Maybe.
You guys here are specialists in game shooting, and what an opportunity to try some new technology in these steel shot cartridges. Not new. The technology has actually been out for a very long while, a decade or so, but just not needed here in the UK. So it's well tested, well proven, millions of rounds shot in both test environments and field testing, live game environments as well. So I think what we should do now is go and put a pattern plate up and see what it can do.
Okay.
Okay, Nick, so here's our pattern plate. It's a little bit makeshift, I'm afraid. They arrived the other day and the paper was too thin, so I've had to tape this to some cardboard. So this is a 30-inch circle, so it's a standard pattern plate. We're going to be shooting it at 40 yards. Let's write those details in now. So date today is the 13th of October 2022. What's the gun, Nick?
It is a Beretta 12-bore.
What model?
686 Onyx.
Beretta 686. It's a 12-bore, a 3/4 choke we've got in there for the pattern plate test. We're going to be shooting it at 40 yards. The cartridge is going to be the Live Quarry 2 3/4 inch, and that's a 28-gram load, and that is a number 4, and I'm just going to put in brackets here, UK 3. Okay, so that's the pattern plate. Let's go and shoot it and see what we can do. Okay, so we've got our 3/4 choke, Vouzelaud Live Quarry, the 2 3/4 inch cartridge, shooting the pattern plate at 40 yards. Everybody got eyes and ears? Here we go. Okay, let's wander down and have a look at the pattern. This one-shot pattern test is being carried out purely to give you an idea of what to expect when using the Vouzelaud Live Quarry 2 3/4 inch cartridge. A broader scope of tests will be carried out soon to provide a better understanding of the patterns and their consistency across a full range of chokes. The results of these tests will be posted on the Live Quarry website in due course. So it looks like I shot ever so slightly high and left. That's very much the centre of the pattern there. But that's a really dead pheasant there. One or two flyers around the outside, but really a solid pattern. There's no real gaps in that. So that's our pattern test. So that's it for our video today. I hope you found everything informative. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us through the Charles Lancaster website at www.clguns.com or the Live Quarry website at www.livequarrysteel.com. We'll be back soon with some more videos testing some of the other products available, including the 2.5-inch Live Quarry Vintage, the 20 bore and the clay shooting cartridge. In the meantime, we hope you have a great rest of the season. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.